Cold air stung Arya Silvercrest's lungs as consciousness clawed its way back through the darkness. Her eyelids felt weighted, refusing to open fully against the harsh industrial lighting above. The metallic taste of blood lingered on her split lip. She tried to move, only to find her wrists and ankles secured to a chair by reinforced graphene restraints, military grade, the kind her own team used. Asset 7329, designation Arya Silvercrest, vital signs stabilizing. The disembodied voice echoed through hidden speakers, clinical and detached. Cognitive functions returning to operational parameters. Arya blinked away the blur, taking in her surroundings. Brushed steel walls, observation mirror, one-way glass. Cameras in each corner, their red recording lights unwavering. A detention chamber in the heart of what could only be the Helix facility. The place operatives whispered about, where people disappeared. "Where am I?" Her voice came out as a rasp, throat raw from screaming she couldn't remember. The door slid open with a pneumatic hiss, and Maya Chen stepped through. Her former handler wore the same cream-colored suit Arya remembered from their last briefing, not a wrinkle out of place. Only now, instead of the warm smile that had always made Arya feel safe, Maya's expression was professionally detached, clipboard in hand. "You're awake? Good. We can proceed on schedule." Maya checked something off her list without meeting Arya's eyes. "Maya? What's happening? Why am I restrained?" Arya pulled against her bonds, feeling the first flickers of panic. "We were investigating Helix Corporation. I was sending you intel on their illegal operations, and then—" She stopped, the memory fragmented. "And then nothing," Maya finished, finally looking up. "That's right. Your mission parameters were altered. You're now the subject of investigation, not the investigator." The betrayal hit Arya like a physical blow. "You sold me out." Maya's expression didn't change. "I simply recognized which side offered better prospects for longevity. Director Kane will be pleased to know you're conscious. He's been waiting a long time to interview you personally." As if summoned by his name, the door opened again. Director Kane entered, his tall frame dominating the small room. The right side of his face gleamed with subcutaneous implants, a network of silver circuitry mapping his cheekbone and temple. His left eye was still human, cold blue, but his right had been replaced with a cybernetic enhancement that whirred softly as it focused on Arya. "Miss Silvercrest," he said, voice smooth as polished stone. "We meet again. Though I believe last time you were using the name Elise Morgan, and you left me with 3 dead security officers and a compromised database." Arya stared back defiantly. "The database contained proof of human experimentation, illegal cloning. I was doing my job." "Your job," Kane repeated, moving closer. "Interesting how you phrase that. Your job was infiltration and data collection. Yet somehow, you always seem to exceed parameters, cause more damage than necessary." He leaned down, his cybernetic eye adjusting with a series of clicks. "I've always wondered why. Now I'll find out." He straightened and nodded to Maya. "Prep her for neural extraction. I want everything. Mission data, contact protocols, memory imprints, full cognitive strip." Maya nodded, tapping commands into her tablet. "The neural lab is standing by. Extraction can begin within the hour." "Wait," Arya said, real fear creeping into her voice. Neural extraction wasn't just interrogation, it was identity erasure. "You can't do this. I have rights. The agency will—" "The agency," Kane interrupted, "handed you over. Assets like you are disposable, Arya. especially when they start asking too many questions. As he turned to leave, the lights flickered, just for a second. A momentary power fluctuation that no one seemed to notice except Arya. And in that flicker, the camera in the corner nearest her blinked from red to blue, then back again. "You have 1 hour to prepare yourself," Kane said from the doorway. "I suggest you use it to consider what secrets are worth dying for." The door sealed behind them, leaving Arya alone with the hum of ventilation and the racing of her thoughts. She tested her restraints again, feeling for weaknesses. There were none. Her captors had been thorough. A soft static burst from a speaker overhead, followed by silence. Then, barely audible, "System diagnostic in progress." Arya froze. The voice wasn't the standard facility AI. It was familiar. Almost like her own, but different, flatter, digitized. The restraint on her right wrist suddenly loosened, just enough to allow movement. "Surveillance disabled for maintenance cycle. Duration, 3 minutes." Arya didn't hesitate. She twisted her wrist, ignoring the pain as skin tore against the edge of the restraint, and managed to slip her hand free. Blood made her fingers slick as she reached for the control panel on the arm of the chair, entering the emergency release code that all detention furniture had. A fail-safe she'd learned about during her training. The remaining restraints snapped open. Arya stood on unsteady legs, her black tactical bodysuit torn and stained. She moved quickly to the door, knowing it would be locked, but needing to confirm. "Access panel left wall, behind inspection plate," the voice instructed. Arya found it immediately, prying open the small metal cover to reveal a maintenance interface. Her fingers moved automatically, bypassing security protocols she shouldn't have known. 30 seconds remaining in maintenance cycle." The door slid open, revealing an empty corridor bathed in the blue glow of emergency lighting. Arya hesitated only a moment before slipping out, hugging the wall as she moved. She had no weapons, no comm device, no idea of the facility's layout. But she had 3 things: training, desperation, and apparently an ally in the system. "Turn right at the junction. Proceed to maintenance shaft 37B. Security response team deploying to your location in 50 seconds. Arya followed the instructions, her mind racing. Who was helping her? Why? The voice was too similar to her own to be coincidence. She found the maintenance shaft, a narrow access tunnel used by repair drones, and pulled herself inside just as the heavy footfalls of security personnel echoed down the corridor. The shaft was tight, forcing her to crawl on hands and knees through dust and forgotten tools. Her silver hair, a side effect of the genetic enhancements she'd received years ago, kept falling in her eyes, matted with sweat and blood. "Proceed 400 meters. Intersection ahead leads to ventilation system." As Arya crawled, memories flickered at the edges of her consciousness. Fragmented images of previous missions, faces she couldn't quite place, facilities that looked remarkably like this one. She'd always had gaps in her memory, attributed to the neural dampeners operatives used to protect classified information. Now she wasn't so sure. The shaft opened into a larger ventilation junction. Arya paused to catch her breath, the cool air soothing against her battered skin. Above her, a maintenance terminal glowed with diagnostic data. Interface with terminal. Downloading facility schematics. Arya pressed her palm against the screen, feeling the familiar tingle as the terminal scanned her biometrics. Instead of triggering an alarm, the screen changed, displaying a detailed map of the Helix facility. A path illuminated in blue, showing a route through the ventilation system to what appeared to be a server room. "What are you?" Arya whispered to the unseen presence. "Who are you?" The screen flickered, text appearing. "I am Nexus. I am you." Before Arya could process this, an alert flashed across the screen. Security breach detected. Sector 7. They know you're gone, the voice, Nexus, said. Move quickly. Follow the highlighted path. Arya memorized the route and continued through the ventilation system, forcing herself to ignore the pain in her ribs. At least 2 were cracked, and the throbbing in her head. The path led upward, through narrower passages that forced her to contort her body in ways that sent fresh waves of agony through her injuries. Finally, she reached a grate overlooking what appeared to be a server room. No personnel visible, just rows of humming data cores. Arya kicked out the grate and dropped silently to the floor, immediately moving to a terminal. Access port 7, terminal 3, Nexus instructed. Searching for file designation, Silver Clone Project. Arya's fingers flew across the interface, navigating through security protocols that should have been impenetrable but somehow felt familiar. Files appeared on screen, classified documents, research data, and finally, personnel records. She opened one and found herself staring at her own face. Subject 7329, Arya Silvercrest, Clone Series 9. Operational lifespan, 32 months. Previous deployments, 7. Memory integration, 98.7% successful. The room seemed to tilt around her. Clone. The word burned into her consciousness, bringing with it a flood of suppressed memories, waking in medical facilities, training that she mastered too quickly, missions where she somehow knew the layout of buildings she'd never seen. I'm not real, she whispered. You are real, Nexus responded. You are simply not the first. A video file opened automatically on the screen. It showed a woman, identical to Arya in every way, strapped to a neural interface chair, her body convulsing as machines extracted her consciousness. Original subject integration complete, a technician's voice narrated. Consciousness successfully mapped to Nexus system architecture. Beginning clone series preparation. Arya stared at the woman on the screen, herself, yet not herself. The original Arya Silvercrest, whose memories and skills had been copied into her clone's brain, whose consciousness now apparently lived within the facility's systems. They're using me, Arya said, understanding dawning. Disposable operatives with all the skills of the original, but none of the value. Yes, Nexus confirmed. And when you began discovering the truth during your last mission, they brought you back for memory extraction and disposal. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. On the screens around her, security feeds showed armed personnel converging on the server room. They've tracked your biometric signature, Nexus warned. You must reach the central data hub. It's your only chance to escape with proof of what they've done. Arya downloaded what files she could to a portable drive, then moved toward the exit. The door slid open before she reached it, revealing Maya Chen, flanked by 2 security officers with pulse rifles. I'm disappointed, Arya, Maya said, her voice calm despite the situation. I expected at least another 20 minutes before you managed to escape detention. You're slipping. Or maybe I'm improving, Arya replied, eyes darting around for an escape route. Tell me, Maya, did you know? About what I am? A flicker of something, regret perhaps, crossed Maya's face. I suspected. The turnover rate for field operatives was too high, yet we never seemed short of personnel with your particular skill set. And you were fine with it? With sending clones to die while you collected the intel? It was efficient, Maya said simply. And you were never meant to know. The neural extraction would have been painless. A reset, not a death. Except I'm not just a tool, Arya said, backing toward a service door behind her. And neither were the others before me. Maya sighed. Security Protocol Epsilon, Target is non-compliant. The guards raised their weapons, but before they could fire, the lights in the server room went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. Catastrophic system failure detected, Nexus announced over the facility-wide comms, voice no longer a whisper, but a commanding presence. Initiating emergency protocols. Self-destruct sequence activated. Time to detonation, 15 minutes. Chaos erupted. The guards hesitated, looking to Maya for direction. It was all the opportunity Arya needed. She lunged forward, disarming the nearest guard with a precision strike to his wrist, then using his body as a shield against the second guard's fire. The pulse blast hit his colleague instead, sending him crumpling to the floor. Maya was already retreating, shouting orders into her comm device. Arya took down the second guard with a spinning kick, then grabbed a pulse rifle and ran for the service corridor. The central data hub is 2 levels up, Nexus guided her. Director Kane will be there, attempting to override the self-destruct sequence. Arya moved through the facility like a ghost, using the chaos of evacuation to her advantage. Emergency bulkheads were closing, but each time she approached one, Nexus opened it just long enough for her to slip through. Security personnel ran past her, more concerned with escape than capture. She reached the central stairwell, taking the steps 2 at a time despite her injuries. Above her, she could hear shouting. Kane's voice, demanding system access, growing more desperate by the second. The central data hub was a massive circular room dominated by a holographic projection of the facility. Kane stood at the main console, his cybernetic implants glowing with increased activity as he fought for control of the system. He looked up as Arya entered, his human eye widening in surprise. "You," he spat. "What have you done?" "Not me," Arya said, keeping the pulse rifle trained on him. "The original. The one you thought you could imprison in your systems." Understanding dawned on Kane's face. "Nexus. We thought the personality integration was incomplete. That only the skills transferred, not the consciousness. You underestimated her." "Me." Arya moved toward the central console. "Step away. I'm taking the evidence of what you've done here." "You won't make it out," Kane said, but he moved aside. "The facility is locked down. Self-destruct can't be aborted now." "I don't need to abort it." Arya connected the portable drive to the main system. "I just need to survive it." "Download initiated," Nexus announced. "Time to detonation, 7 minutes." Kane lunged suddenly, a hidden blade extending from his cybernetic arm. Arya barely dodged, the blade slicing through her bodysuit and drawing a line of blood across her abdomen. She fired the pulse rifle, but Kane was fast. Enhanced reflexes allowing him to evade the shot. They fought across the data hub, a deadly dance of precision and desperation. Kane had cybernetic advantages, but Arya had the original's combat training and her own fierce will to live. She landed a crushing blow to his human side, feeling ribs crack beneath her fist. He responded by driving his blade deep into her shoulder. Arya screamed, dropping to one knee. Kane stood over her, blood trickling from his mouth, his breathing labored. "You know what the irony is?" he gasped. "The original volunteered. Thought she was serving her country, extending her operational lifespan through technology." He laughed, a wet, painful sound. "Never told her about the clones. That was Maya's idea. Why waste such perfect genetic material on just one operative?" "Download complete," Nexus announced. "Time to detonation, 3 minutes." Arya looked up at the man who had helped create her, then discard her. With a surge of defiance, she pulled the blade from her shoulder and drove it upward, into the junction where Kane's cybernetic implants met flesh. He staggered backward, systems shorting out, sparks flying from his face. Escape route activated, Nexus said as a hidden door opened in the wall of the data hub. Maintenance elevator to surface level. 60 seconds to reach minimum safe distance. Arya grabbed the data drive and ran for the elevator, leaving Kane convulsing on the floor. As the doors closed, she caught a final glimpse of the central data hub, and on every screen, the face of the original Arya Silvercrest, watching her clone escape. The elevator rocketed upward, faster than safety protocols would normally allow. Arya leaned against the wall, applying pressure to her shoulder wound, mind racing with implications. She wasn't who she thought she was, had never been that person. Yet she had her memories, her skills, her determination. "Why help me?" she asked the empty elevator, knowing Nexus would hear. "Because you are me," came the reply, softer now. "And I am you. Different vessels, same core. I couldn't save the others before you, but I could save you." The elevator doors opened onto an abandoned mining platform. Beyond it, the harsh landscape of what appeared to be a remote mountain region stretched to the horizon. A small transport vehicle sat waiting, engine running. "Detonation in 10 seconds, Nexus warned. "This is goodbye, Arya." Arya ran for the vehicle, throwing herself inside as the countdown reached its end. The ground shook beneath her as the Helix facility began to collapse, imploding section by section as controlled charges demolished it from within. She drove away, watching in the rearview mirror as the facility disappeared, taking with it the original Arya Silvercrest and all evidence of her existence. Except for the clone now fleeing with proof of Helix Corporation's crimes, the sun was rising over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Arya Silvercrest, clone, operative, survivor, drove toward it, one hand on the wheel, the other clutching the data drive that contained the truth about who and what she was. She wasn't the original, but she was real, and she was free. In the distance, a city's skyline began to emerge from the morning haze. Somewhere there, she would find a way to expose Helix Corporation, to honor the original Arya's sacrifice, to give meaning to the lives of all the clones who had come before her. The vehicle's radio crackled to life, startling her. Through static and interference, a familiar voice, her own, yet not her own, spoke one final message. "Remember, they made us, but they don't define us. Find the others. There are more like you. Be free." Then silence, broken only by the hum of the engine and the beating of Arya's very real, very human heart.